Hello, Bloom with Deb. My friends, I'm so glad you're here for this interview. I want to introduce you to my new friend, Caris Snider. We met at a book conference and she authored Anxiety Elephants. She came out in the beginning of 2020. She's sold several thousand copies already, and she's got more projects coming. So I wanted to introduce you to her and let her share about her story. So let's jump in. Hi, Caris. How are you?
Hey, Deb, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great from Jacksonville. Where are you now?
I am in Coleman, Alabama. Can you hear that accent?
I love it. I love it. Great. So let's just jump in. We want to know, because you are a woman who's biblically living out her mission, we want to know why you wrote this book. So tell us your story a little bit and how this came about.
Right. So I love that question because I think it's a powerful one to know the why behind our purpose, right? Why what we're doing. And about 9 years ago, anxiety and depression almost took my life. I was involved in the church greatly. My husband and I, we were leading worship in the church. I had a business I was running out of my home. He had a successful business. And my daughter at the time was living her best 2-year-old life. And while everything looked great, I was literally crumbling inside. I was crushed on the inside, terrified to let people know the hurt and the pain and the shame that I was dealing with. I was having these feelings in my chest. My heart was racing, and I could never get my breath, and I would just feel paralyzed with fear. And it felt like an elephant sitting on my chest, and I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe, no matter how hard I tried. I just couldn't do it. And I didn't tell anybody because honestly, at that time in my life, I thought anxiety and depression were not real. And that when women would come to me for advice or prayer or needing ministry, my answer was not one with compassion like Jesus would give. It was more of you need to try harder. You need to pray harder. You need to read your Bible more. Or often it would be, well, you just need to suck it up, buttercup, more like a football coach and not with the love of Jesus. And then as I fell into my battle with anxiety and depression, I saw how real it was. And in September of 2011, I had a miscarriage. I lost a baby. And in that moment, that was the lowest of the lows for me. And I felt worthless, hopeless, useless, and purposeless. And it was as if the enemy was saying to me, you're not needed here. You're a burden. And this world would be much better off without you. And I truly felt that. But in that moment, I also felt God and his two gentle hands lift my chin and say, look up, look up. And when I looked up, there were the helpers. And I get chills thinking about it every time. The helpers were my counselor. The helpers were a doctor, my family, my husband, my friends, my church. And in those moments, I realized that the lies of the enemy of you're the only one that's battling this. If you tell, they will reject you. They will turn their back on you. I realized that they were lies because as I began to share and tell my story, tell the struggle, tell what I was dealing with, every single time I was met with other women who would look at me and breathe a sigh of relief and say, you too? And I was like, yeah, me too. So in that moment and speaking and over the last few years, as God has done a work and a restoration in my life, he's led me to write this book, Anxiety Elephants. And it's a 31-day devotional. And in it, I wanted to let other women know, like me, that they were not alone. And there are practical steps that we can take daily in our life to not allow that anxiety to steal from us anymore, where we can thrive through the anxiety, because sometimes you have to work through it. I still have those days. And so that's kind of how the book was born, is to just let others know, hey, I'm with you. I'm on this journey with you. This is a process, but God has a great purpose for us, and he's going to use our struggles for good to help others. So that's kind of the story behind the book.
Yes, I love your story. And I got to read your whole book after we met and I was at the airport. I read the first half of it, but wouldn't you know, the lady seated next to me on the plane opened up about her life and said that she had anxiety, social anxiety. And I said, who diagnosed you with social anxiety? You're doing fine. You've just told me your whole life story and all your problems. And I said, well, if you think you have anxiety, I've got a book for you. And I gave her your book, and she was really grateful. And she's out in Tennessee. So hopefully that seed will be planted, and she'll continue to seek help and find the Lord because of your book. I think that's incredible. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there like this, because it is such a stigma to have anxiety. And I didn't realize it till I was writing that I had a panic attack in my 20s. I was in a gas station. There were men everywhere. It was late at night. I was single. I had roommates, but I was just, at the time, I was all alone in the car, and I just was so scared. I closed my eyes and prayed. And when I opened my eyes, everybody was gone except one police officer. And I got gas in my car, went home, got with God. I was like, what was that all about? Like, why was my chest beating? So why was I clamming? I've never been scared before. And it was a awakening of just, this is what an anxiety feels like. And it helped me to understand we do have to go through it sometimes, whether it's one attack or years of attacks, it is an attack from the enemy. And I liked what you said about how the enemy wants us to make us feel like we're all alone.
Yes.
And that isolation is the enemy really is good at isolating us and keeping us quiet about the things that we struggle with. But I think this generation is so eager to find help, and that they're willing to share their struggle. They're not ashamed of it. And I love that the shame is taken away. We don't need to be isolated. It's okay to share, and we're not alone. And that's the biggest part of you. That's who you are. That's your heart. That's your message in this book. A 31-day devotional is so simple, even for people who don't like to read books cover to cover. This is in bite-sized pieces. You can read as much or as little each day as you want. You can skip ahead and read all of it in one day if you want to, whatever you need. It's a great, great book. I wanted to ask too, because our listeners with Bloom with Deb are people who are pursuing their passions. Now, can I ask a little bit, growing up, maybe you never thought you'd be a writer. Maybe you thought you'd never be an author of books, and this is a new season for you, as it is for me too. But what is your passion and calling, do you feel, over the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, so it's funny because I've worn many hats. I feel like growing up, my passion honestly was children. I loved children. I loved working with children. And my goal was to have my own daycare by the time I was 25 years old. And I was going to be a business owner and, be my own boss kind of thing. And so I graduated from the University of Alabama with a early child development degree. And I worked in daycare and preschool for about 10 years. And I even did run my own daycare for a year. God let me do what I wanted to do for a year. And then I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, who's 12 now. And it was kind of like, okay, God was like, okay, now can we do what I want you to do? So I gave that up, but it was a process to get me into writing. I had always loved in high school and even, as a young adult, speaking in front of people and encouraging. I love to encourage. I love to just cheer you on and help you see that you are created and capable through Christ to do way more than you think or can imagine. So I've always loved to do that. And then as God restored and healed me through my struggle with anxiety and depression, people would really ask me, when are you going to write something? So when we come and hear you speak, we want to take it home with us. Because some of us like to write it down or we like to read it. And so writing was not on my bucket list of things to do in my life. And so God just began to kind of drop that dream there. And honestly, I argued with him a little bit. Like, I think you're wrong, which who tells God that he's wrong? I don't know. So I had to ask forgiveness for that. But he just continued to kind of be like, I need you to trust me. I need you to trust me and release control. Yes, this feels scary. Yes, it feels uncomfortable. Yes, it feels awkward because I need this to be done where he gets the glory. It's not me, it is him. It is all him. And I'm learning to lean in, and I'm learning to trust him and to truly walk by faith and not by sight. And as you're saying, as a writer now, you may can even relate to that. It truly is a trust. It's like those trust falls, where you practice and you fall back and wait for someone to catch you. And that's really kind of what it feels like for me. I'm just falling back in his arms, and I know he's going to catch me, and I know he's going to equip me. So it's been a learning process for me, but now that I have begun doing it, I love it. I love it. And I love the people that it has brought in my life that share their stories with me that I never would have met otherwise without this part of the journey. So it has just really been a precious gift for me that I've received, just because others have, like you said, it's been a generation that's willing to open up and be vulnerable and share, and they want to learn. They want to learn these practical things. And so it has just been a really unexpected gift, I think, is the way I would describe it.
That's wonderful. And it truly is. It's funny how God knows us better than we know ourselves. When I accepted Christ, I wanted him to make me the person that he created me to be. And, even though career-wise it may change over the years, the person you're becoming is who he wants you to be. It's not about what you're doing, it's who you're becoming. And that's the process we're all in the spiritual journey together. So I'm so excited that you have listened to his voice, that you're following his footsteps and his calling, and that I think for both of us, we're grateful that we have found a team like Brookstone and other people that have helped us along the way to get our books out there. I'm excited about your next step. But first off, where can people get a hold of this book?
Yeah, so you can go to my website at Cariss Snider, CarissSnider.com. And there's several places mentioned there, but Amazon's got it. They even have an ebook version as well. Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, all of those big places like that. You can find it online. But like I said, you can go to my website, and there's some other information listed there.
Super. And that's how people can reach out to you too. I love that it's, because of the internet, it's a two-way relationship. It's now we know authors, now we can speak to them and respond to them and give them feedback about their books. It's that, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't get to do that before.
Right. And I would even say, I love that. I love when people reach out and ask me questions, or they reach out and they share their story, or they want to communicate with me. I think a lot of authors, we really do like that. Like, we want to have that community with you. So I just want, everyone to know that if they want to reach out and ask me a question or share something with me, I would love, to have that communication.
Wow. Well, you heard it here, free counseling with Caris Snider. So I'm so glad that you are pursuing this and continuing. Tell us about your next book project that'll be coming out next year.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this. I just signed a traditional publishing contract with In-Game Publishing, and this is going to be a devotional for tweens. It's going to be an anxiety elephants for tweens. So if you have a 9 to 12-year-old, this book is going to be geared toward them. It's going to be devotional for them, and it'll be spring 2022 that this is going to come out. We don't have the exact date yet, but I'm really excited about this. I feel like if you can think back to yourself in that time in your life when you're 9 to 12 and you're confused about a lot of things and you're feeling, these anxious feelings and these hormones raging, if you knew how to cope, if you knew what God's word says, if you knew that you're not just making all this up in your head and that there is a way through it, where do you, I think, where would they be as teenagers? Where will they be as adults? So I'm really excited about this project and really excited that it'll be something that tweens can read by themselves. Tweens can read with their parents. It's something they can do within their children and youth programs at their church or even at their schools if they're involved with a faith-based school. So I think it's going to be great. It's going to be for girls and boys. I think boys sometimes get left out on the devotional end. I grew up with brothers, so they're going to be included in this. This is for our kids. This is for our parents, to work through this season of life. We've all been through a lot over this past year, and it can be difficult for us as adults, but even our kids. So I'm excited about this project.
I'm glad. I'm so excited too. It's right up my alley because I get calls a lot from parents, even just this week, with kids under 12 who are dealing with the stress of COVID, school, bullying, just relationships, friendships, all that stuff is starting between 9 and 12. And you're a great advocate since you have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. You are in the midst of it with your own children. So I think this will be a great tool for you to work on over the next year. God will use this even for your own family and for your own sanity, because you want to help your girls and you want to, be able to communicate with them about this stuff on their level. And I will definitely be praying for you because I know the battle is real. The enemy does not want us to help young people.
He's already started. Yeah, you're right.
He is attacking them. So I'm glad that you're going to work on this, and we are in your corner. We'll be praying for you to accomplish this good work that God has purposed for you to do, and he will help you accomplish it. And, it's one thing to write books. It's another to sell books, but it's not about selling it or making money. It's about helping that one person. And I just love your heart, and I just love what God is doing in your life. So I just am praising God for this friendship and this just having a partner with us as we continue to bloom. I just want to encourage you out there that as you are seeking God for the direction of your life, it may change every 5 to 7 years, maybe every 10 years. You never know what you're going to be doing 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. There are careers out there waiting for you that have not even been created yet. So we just want to encourage you to lean in, trust God, listen to him, and what did he say? Release control. Oh my gosh, is that not the hardest thing for women, is to let go of control? But trust me, it's worth it. He has got an adventure waiting for you. Just follow his path and stay tuned to Bloom with Deb. We've got more incredible women like Cariss that are going to be sharing their stories with you to encourage your walk with God and to spur you on and motivate you to pursue fulfilling every good work God has for you to do. So thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Thank you, Cariss.
Thanks.